everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from Breaux Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Yo, did y'all hear the Michigan lawmaker? Did y'all get to hear her 4-minute speech yesterday? Did y'all hear the fire that she brought? Like, she brought a whole bunch of funk. Like, that's how I want us to fight. Like, I want us to get just down and dirty. Well, not down and dirty, but call out the lies. You know what I'm saying? Call out the lies. Can I share just a little bit of her speech with y'all? Can I just a tiny bit, because I'm so excited and she's so hype. I'm telling you, you guys are gonna love this.
I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom. I want my daughter to know that she is loved, supported, and seen for whoever she becomes. I want her to be curious, empathetic, and kind. People who are different are not the reason that our roads are in bad shape after decades of disinvestment, or that healthcare costs are too high, or that teachers are leaving the profession. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian.
That show ain't me.
We cannot let hateful people tell you otherwise, to scapegoat and deflect from the fact that they are not doing anything to fix the real issues that impact people's lives.
She was hyped.
And I know that hate will only win if people like me stand by and let it happen. So I want to be very clear right now. Call me whatever you want. I hope you brought in a few dollars. I hope it made you sleep good last night. I know who I am. I know what faith and service means and what it calls for in this moment. We will not let hate win.
I mean, what? Did she bring it or did she bring it? You know what I'm saying? We will not let hate win. Listen, we see what's happening down in Florida. The Don't Say Gay bill. We saw what's happening in Indiana. Her message resonates in all 50 states. Trust no one believe that, right? Because we know right now, I reported on it last week, JD Ford was talking about how the State House is already working on an Indiana version of the Don't Say Gay bill. And that they're calling people who, listen, I don't think they understand. When you try to erase a whole human, do you know what that does to that human? Just because you don't understand who they are and how they live and how they accept themselves, you want to marginalize them even more. And when we're talking about our kids, when we do gender affirming care, we reduce suicidal ideations. Do you not understand that? No, they don't, and they don't care. And none of those things that they're talking about, none of those proposals, none of that energy, none of that money that they're going to spend time on and energy on is going to do anything that improves the lives of Hoosiers or Americans for that matter. But this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a bunch of people who, if you call them a bigot, their feelings is hurt. But if they wouldn't do bigoted things, they wouldn't be called a bigot. You can't try to erase American history because it makes you uncomfortable. So what? It makes me uncomfortable knowing that my mother, born in 1929, never had an opportunity to have any of the success that I've had. And she was, if she had, she'd have been twice the woman I am. But she was born in 1929 in Forest, Mississippi, and she didn't get the opportunities that I get. Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart that she passed away at 72 when she could have lived a longer life. But because we don't have proper testing for ovarian cancer, because it's a woman's disease. See, these are real issues that impact us, but because some of us are not, don't have the ability to think holistically about the world around us, people are being marginalized and people are hurting. But you know what? You know me. I'm all about that love. She mentioned none of these things that they are talking about are actually going to improve lives. Well, let's talk about the things that Democrats in Indiana are working on. Ha! We got something for you. State Representative Rita Fleming, Democrat from Jeffersonville, applauds the state funds to enhance infrastructure in the Indiana House District 71. Through the Community Crossing Grant Project, Clark County and the city of Jeffersonville are receiving $560,000 plus and $970,000 respectively going towards roads and bridge improvement projects in the area. Through the Next Level Trails program, Jeffersonville's Ohio River Greenway is receiving $2,359 to add 0.35 miles to the trail. Updated infrastructure and trails are always a benefit to any community, Fleming said. However, we cannot rely solely on our government grants to maintain our infrastructure. The skilled tradesmen we need for these projects are retiring in greater numbers than we are recruiting. And our communities can't thrive when we don't have the manpower to keep them up and running efficiently. I look forward to seeing the progress made with these grant dollars, Fleming continued, and remain hopeful that our state will take the steps to increase opportunities for young Hoosiers to be introduced to these much-needed fields. See, she ain't talking about don't say gay. She ain't talking about critical race theory. She's talking about things that really matter in her community, which is infrastructure. State Representative Carrie Hamilton applauds the latest funding for Hoosier Trails infrastructure made possible in large part by the work of the bipartisan Legislative Trails Caucus. Thanks to the focused efforts of the Trails Caucus, the Next Level Trails program received $60 million during the 2021 biennial budget process, significantly extending the life of the program. Announced April 20th, the third round of the Next Level Trails program totals $65 million for 77 miles of new trail development. With matching funds from applicants, the estimated total investment is more than $102 million. Hamilton, founder, let me put that in. Yes, it's bipartisan, but Hamilton, Carrie Hamilton, Democrat from District 87, founder and co-chair of the Bipartisan Legislative Trails Caucus, has also been working at the local level alongside a wide range of community stakeholders to help secure funding. So see, again, infrastructure. That's what Rita's talking about. That's what Carrie's talking about. Because see, we don't have any oceans for people to go skinny dipping in. We don't have any mountains for people to climb. So we got to do something to, enhance the quality of life here in Indiana, because we struggle in that area. But that's what these two representatives are working on. They're working on ways to attract people to Indiana, not shun them and ask them to go away. One last thing, because, I know everybody talking about crime, everybody talking about law enforcement, but you got to put in the work. Last week, the city of Gary's application for the local body camera grant was approved with full funding. The city will receive $88,000, the second largest award in this year's cycle, to go toward body cameras for Gary law enforcement officers. Senate Assistant Democratic Leader and ranking minority member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, Eddie Melton, released the following statement. During the height of the unrest following the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor in 2020, residents of Gary and the state made it clear that they wanted more accountability and safety in our criminal justice system. That's why I was pleased to help successfully work with faith leaders, Hoosiers, legislators in both chambers and organizations throughout Indiana to pass the historic Senate Enrolled Act 1006. With overwhelming bipartisan support, now funding approved in that critical legislation is being used to fund the local body camera grant program in Gary. You see what I'm saying? You got, on our side of the aisle, we trying to figure out how we can improve lives, how we can make Indiana better. We just saw a report. You know me, I'm going to get on the education thing. You just saw in a report, public education, Indiana ranks 48th in the nation. I want y'all to let that sink in. While they were writing legislation to make it harder for teachers, while they were writing legislation to make it harder for kids to learn real history, while they were writing legislation to, I don't know, just hire any old person off the street to teach, we're 48th in the nation. And they're doing everything they can to make it worse. Our people are working to make it better. And that is why you have got to show up to these polls in the primary and in November so that we can flip some seats, y'all. It's about your lives and your livelihoods. We are delivering. We are getting things done. Those other people are starting culture wars. They fighting with Mickey Mouse. Come on now. Anybody that's willing to fight with Mickey Mouse, no, let it go. And guess what? All those people that you're trying to marginalize, we pay taxes too. We pay your salary too. If you don't want me to exist, could you figure out a line item to give me back my gay tax money? Have y'all figured it out yet? I keep asking. I've been asking for 5 years. I want my money back if you don't want me to be a part of this citizen government. All right, Indiana's on Dana Black. I'm so excited. I always get excited, and I'm sorry I'm extra hyped because, you know, we only have a couple more weeks of this primary thing. Early voting is already underway, and if you haven't already decided on who you want, I got two more candidates on tonight. I love it. All the way from the northern part of Indiana, looking to stamp his name on the general election ballot in a crowded district, Senate District 4. Y'all, welcome to the show, Todd Connor. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dana Black. You've got me fired up.
As what's up, I did my job. And of course, a legend, an absolute legend in our state, who's been a servant for the people probably since she started breathing. Y'all give it up to former senator and just all around matriarch of our Democratic Party, Billie Breaux. Billie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dana. It's hard to follow you, I'll tell you that much.
Well, no, I'm following you. Please trust, know, and believe. You laid the groundwork. So I am in awe. And y'all, let's just get into it because I had a decent rant today and y'all said y'all fired up. Did y'all want to comment on anything that I ranted about?
Well, I was very excited about the senator from Michigan, and she just flat out laid it out like it was. And I think that's one of the reasons so many people have trouble voting is because they don't see the money being spent for things that they need. And she let it out. Yes, we need to be talking about our streets, our education, and all of that, and not about somebody's sex life.
Girl, go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, Senator Breaux, it's great to see you, and just it's rarefied air to share this time with you and you as well, Dana. But you know, you got to wonder about a political party that decides to put Mickey Mouse, children, teachers in the crosshairs. It's not only those folks, it's also police officers who are saying, look, permitless carry is a bad idea. It's also women who want reproductive freedom. So you start adding up the constituencies where they're kind of just engaged in these culture wars. And you start doing the math and you're like, you know, I become optimistic that Indiana can be in play because these moves are so aggressive to so many people. And it's not who we are, you know? So we can do more here. And I was excited to see the speech out of Michigan. It was awesome.
It was great. All right, you know what? I'm going to start with the newbie, Senator Breaux. I'm going to start with the new guy.
That's great.
You know, I want to know who you are. So Todd, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. Well, Todd Connor. I'm from originally the northern suburbs of Chicago. Grew up there, went to college, joined the Navy, served on active duty during Operation Iraqi Freedom during 9/11. Had a
thank you for
your
wild service.
Time there. Thank you. Yeah, it was an exceptional experience, really transformative for me. I served during interesting times. I served during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Of course, I'm now married to my husband of 14 years. But
we got us another rainbow warrior, JD. We trying to send you some help.
That's it. You know, and it's interesting because I think my relationship with this country is like, I just want to help and be of service. And sometimes, you know, the help doesn't always come invited, and the service sometimes has to be quietly delivered. And so I have some experience with that. But I got out of the military, went on, started a business, and then started an organization to help other military veterans start businesses. And that's really been my passion for the last 10 years, is helping others start businesses. 25% of military veterans want to start businesses, and they are, you know, disproportionately from low-income communities, rural communities, urban communities. And only about 3% actually do start businesses.
Wow.
So I was very specifically trying to solve that issue to say, how do you help more people who have worn the uniform, served our country, find the opportunity to be self-directed in this country and in this economy? And it's what's exciting in that work is that when people are successful, it doesn't only change the trajectory of their own life, it changes their family, it changes their community. Military veterans are more likely to run for office, they're more likely to give charitably. So it's a really, kind of a cascading effect of good things that happens when folks step into their own power, which is something that I know you preach, Dana. And so I've been doing that work nationally. We have chapters in 40 cities across the country,
Wow.
including Indianapolis. Yeah, including Indianapolis, Chicago. We serve about 1,200 veterans a year, and then we've made Northwest Indiana home. We bought our house here in 2014. We're in Michigan City, unincorporated Michigan City. So we're actually in Porter County, which if you're from the northwest corner of the state, this means something.
Oh yeah.
If you're from Marion County, you may not track this, but we live in Porter County.
I've spent some time up in Porter County and in Michigan City. Trust, don't believe. Indiana's own gets around.
That's it. Well, then come on up. I got a bed for you. Come on over. We got a place for you to stay.
Don't tell me twice. Don't tell me twice.
Yeah.
I love Michigan City.
It's in Michigan City and Northwest Indiana is such a gem.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe, and I'll just say this and we can, transition the conversation, but I think we're poised. I know that we are poised as a region for greatness and for enormous opportunity. There's $2 billion in direct investment coming into the region. The double track extension of the South Shore train line is going to connect from South Bend through Michigan City, through Gary into Chicago, the third largest economy in the country. And folks are going to look to Indiana and wonder, could that be a place to call home? I really believe that, and a lot of these dollars, by the way, we can thank the President Biden and the Democratic administration for delivering this. These are resources that are coming through the American Rescue Plan and Build Back Better. I mean, these are resources that are federally allocated coming to the state. So we can thank the Democratic President and Congress for delivering. Yeah, and they do. And so we have this enormous opportunity in Northwest Indiana. The question for me and for the region is, will we have the political leadership to help tell the story about what's possible here in Northwest Indiana? We cannot get left behind. And we feel at times isolated, particularly from the policies out of the State House. We can feel isolated from the state writ large or the opportunity. And what I tell folks is, there's going to be things happening here, but the question is just, is it going to be Amazon warehouses and low wage opportunities, or can it be more?
Right.
And my argument is it can be more. It's got to be more. It could be clean energy. It could be technology. It could be attracting folks who want to make this home. So we have a great opportunity. There's so much to love here: the natural environment, the schools, the community. But we gotta frame this in the right way so that we don't get left behind. So I looked at this and said, I have a point of view on this, and that's why I decided to run for office. And I'm really excited here. We're inside of 2 weeks, so it's campaign time. But I will say this, Dana, on the spirit of love, when this is over, we're all going to come together, and I'm committed to that, and I think the other folks are as well in this race. And so we'll make sure that happens.
Absolutely. I think I put up a post on Facebook the other day, maybe last week, saying that I hated primaries, and it's not that I hate competition. I just hate that we don't love on each other like we're supposed to. And in many cases, and I'm gonna say it, ain't nobody else got to say it because I ain't on the ballot. Sometimes we fight each other harder than we fight them. And I want us to fight them like Senator McMorrow was fighting them. I want us to, because she did an interview on MSNBC or someplace else, and they asked her, what did the lady say who wrote the really awful email calling her whatever she calls, exploiter or whatever. I forget what the word they use. But anyway, she said, no, the lady didn't even look at her. She turned her back, because that's what cowards do. When you hit a bully in the mouth, and she did it verbally. I'm not talking about being physical, but she did it verbally. She hit her in the mouth and she buckled. And that's the kind of fight that I know we need in the state of Indiana. And we have enough of those. And the other part that a lot of people miss, Indiana is 88% white. I'm gonna need my white brothers and sisters to get out here and make these fights. And that was she was saying. I am a straight white Christian suburban mom. You know, Dana Black can talk all she wants. They're not gonna really hear me like that. But anyway, let me get off of that. And but one of our strongest fighters for years, longer than I've been aware of who the heck I am, Senator Breaux, when she was in the State House, she's been a leader. Tell the people who you are and where you come from, and tell us some of those way back stories. Give us some knowledge tonight.
You might be here all evening, Dana. Let me say, what people probably don't know is that I was born and raised in West Virginia. I was born in a political and education aware family. My father was a Republican. Lincoln freed the slaves. Mm-hmm. And my mother was a Democrat because Roosevelt put a chicken in every pot. When I was about 10 or so, I wrote an essay, Hire the Handicap, and won first place in my state and went to the White House when Truman was president before you were born.
Yeah, a little bit.
So that gave me a start. But in my household, you were politically aware of what was going on, and you knew that you had to go to school and you had to get an education. I had 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and all of us graduated from college and went abroad. So that sort of set the background for me in terms of fighting for things that I believed in. When I first came to Indianapolis, I was a classroom teacher, and I remember speaking out at a faculty meeting. At that time, the principals were all in charge of education and whatnot. The unions were not that strong. Mm-hmm. Well, when I went against the principal, he didn't say anything. But as soon as I got out of the room with all the other teachers, they said, "Do you know what you just did?" I said, "No, you questioned the principal." I said, "Well, that's what I've done all my life." And that sort of sets the precedent for where I am today. I believe in listening, looking around me, making sure that, first of all, I know the facts. Secondly, that you do not fear to tread where others do not. If you think that you are right. Because oftentimes we just follow, but we don't really think for ourselves. So all in all, I have a history of working for civil rights. I'm a former state elected senator for about 16, 18 years. Followed that by being elected to the Marion County Auditor's Office for 8 years. And I guess what I'm most proud of is that I served more than 30 years as a classroom teacher, because I still believe that our future is in the young people. And somehow we have to make sure that the education which we're offering, and being 48th in the state, tells us we're not doing something right.
No.
We need to go back to the table and see what it is that we can correct to make sure that young people today get a quality education. I think we do a lot of experimenting. Experimenting is fine, but experimenting should not take over.
No.
So by and large, that's my background. I was in the park the night that Martin Luther King was assassinated. As a young woman, I was a teacher at the time, and I was working on the Bobby Kennedy campaign. And he, to me, represented all that you wanted in an elected official. He was sensitive, he was caring, and he dared to do the right thing. And I guess today what I would ask anybody to do is dare to be you. Don't let anybody else supplant what you believe and what you think. There's a place for all of us. And as the lady in Michigan said, we shouldn't have to apologize for who we are. We need to act on that and fulfill the promise that the Lord has given us all.
I love it. And see, you know what, today's show, marrying the two of you together today has been incredibly awesome, because here we have, you know, an openly gay man and a historical Black woman. This is America. right? This is America. We encompass a lot of different things, but what I really am excited about is the two of you, you embody the two segments of our society that the other side talks about that they care about, but then they really don't do anything. And that's our veteran care and our teachers in our public education. And that's the kind of stuff that we need in elected office. And I'm going to ask the first question in reference to some of the things that we see coming out of the State House in reference to education. And Todd, obviously, this is going to be more towards you because Billie, we're going to be talking about voting rights in just a minute. Trust, know, and believe that.
Don't worry about it. I'll listen and I'll tune in with it. And I think I have to.
I love it. You know, we're seeing regressive legislation, Todd, come out of that State House. We need people who understand the importance of an educated society, not just some of us, but all of us. Talk about your vision and how you want to work with elected officials in that State House when it comes to public education in Indiana.
Yeah. And I'll just say this because I think Senator Breaux says it. I mean, I think, or maybe you said, Dana, just tired of apologizing for being who we are. I don't want to apologize for being a military veteran. And it kills me, it crushes me to see patriotism hijacked as something that does not represent what I believe to be patriotic. And so there's an active conversation in the military veteran community about what does it mean to be a patriot? What does it mean to fight for democracy and protect the things that we hold to be precious, including voting rights? And I think somehow this has gotten away from us, or has been, I don't want to say it's gotten away. I think it's been hijacked or misinterpreted. And so we've got work to do to really grab hold of that story and say, let me actually tell you what is the American experience, what patriotism is in this country. And for me, it's a deeply personal story of service and of finding the love of my life. And now we're raising a little 2.5-year-old little Black boy in this world, and struggling with how do we understand and prepare him for the identity conversations that he's going to have, and to have, for him to feel fulfilled, and how do we do that in this state, but also like the possibility that can even happen, and that should be celebrated, and that there is so much to love about what is possible in this country. And so I come at this sort of, I joke that I think being a citizen of this country, if you take it seriously, is a little bit like a flawed marriage. And there's days we just want to walk away from it. And then there's days where we come back and fall in love again and try to make it work. And so I think it's that entanglement. And that's why, Billie, I just admire you and your years of service. And to the question, Dana, my mom was a special education teacher for 30 years. I have early childhood memories of some of the first sleepovers I ever had as a child were with kids with learning disabilities, or children with Down syndrome. And my mom, I didn't really, at the time as a child, you don't really understand. You just think, okay, we're gonna go have fun. But my mom was just very intentional of, you're gonna be in company with people who don't resemble your life experience. And I remember being frustrated at times of like, well, I'm not sure that's the sleepover I want to have. There's other kids I want to hang out with. And my mom was just very intent in her gentle way of putting me in the company of people that needed the company. And so I that value for me is important. I think before it's hard to dive into the policy if we don't stop and center our hearts on children and just really, kind of pause and think about the preciousness of every child. And that has to be, I think, the starting point for policy. And this is where I just don't see any moral centering, or certainly not any moral high ground, but even some moral contemplation coming from the other side when it comes to this flood of education bills that are coming out. It's not child-centered, it's adult-centered, it's politically centered, it's conservative, it's right-wing outlet-centered. And so we have to start and lead with our hearts and say children matter, every child matters, every child matters, and that is our primary responsibility as a society, is to raise our kids. It's the most fundamental thing we do. And then we can talk about the policies that emanate from that. 97% of districts report a teacher shortage. We have, folks are undercompensated. I talked to a bus driver last night on a conference call, and she was talking about some of the challenging working conditions that she's been facing. Our aides and paraprofessionals feel recognized, undercompensated.
Mm-hmm.
They are a human fabric that helps kids feel safe and seen in the schools in which they attend. And so we have to support the profession. It's not surprising that people are leaving the profession when we come at them on kind of the boogeymen of, critical race theory and, this nonsense that people want to say is, happening in our schools. It's fabricated. And we just have to stand up and say, when's the last time you were in a classroom? Tell me specifically what you're talking about before you go and write a bill to legislate a problem that doesn't exist. So we have to fight hard on that. Resources are available in this state. It's a question of priorities. Budgets are moral documents. They indicate to us what we think matters. And so we've got the resources. Kids need pre-K, they need healthy lunch, they need after-school support services, they need mental health services. Special education students need full support and services. And so we have to prioritize public education. It's not that complicated. The last thing I would say is, it's not complicated. It's a matter of priorities. We just have to agree and decide that it matters. The last thing I would say is, if you look at the brain drain in this state, the Republican theory, I think for 30 years, and Senator Breaux, you can say more on this because you lived it, but the Republican theory for 30 years was, let's build the perfect sandbox for business. And if you do that, then you'll get all the right businesses to show up. And then magically the right people will show up, and then magically the right communities will kind of develop out of that. It's kind of like trickle down economics. And, the Brookings Institution, which is not exactly a liberal think tank, came out and said 30 years later, the quality of life of Indiana folks is bad. And it's not because you didn't build the perfect sandbox for business. It turns out businesses are the lagging indicator of the human-centered conditions. If you create great quality of life for people, then the people will come, and then the businesses will come. Because the big question for businesses, can I hire 25-year-old female engineers who are excited to live in this state? And if I can't bring my business there. I can't bring Salesforce there. I can't bring, a clean energy company or a tech or venture-backed startup. So you can't build the economy of the future just on a low tax environment. I tell people, if you just keep taxes low and you turn a blind eye on polluters, guess what kind of companies are going to find that attractive? And it's not the kind of companies we want. So this is not just about prioritizing education. If you want to have a serious conversation about brain drain, you have to look beyond the taxes and say, it's actually that we have a brand as a state that's going backwards. And that's not how you build the future. And that's not how you attract the people and keep the people, the Indiana Hoosiers that have been educated here, K-12 and then in the higher education system. They're not going to stay unless we change our reputation. So there's a straight linkage in my mind between these culture wars and the economic challenges that we're facing in this state.
I never understood why they don't get that. Why don't they get, okay, people don't want to live in Indiana. They get their education from some of the best colleges and universities in the country. And they take that and they go somewhere else. And hence we lose Intel. And Lily's is building a new facility in South Carolina instead of, their home, right? Can you imagine you bought a house and you're going to add on to the house across the street? Senator Breaux, but a lot of this is because, we have yet to get people turned out to the polls. We continue to elect people who are not thinking, I don't know what they're thinking. When you are elected, or if you're elected as Marion County Clerk, you will be the clerk of the largest county in the state and the economic driver of the entire state. I know other people be like, Fort Wayne cool, Evansville cool. Y'all good. Y'all all good because I'm Indiana's own, but y'all know we 1 million people strong. The role
Let me just for a moment comment on what Todd Connor has been saying. He is so right in terms of education, and I wish you well. I think one of the biggest frustrations I had as a legislator was to being an educator serving on the education committee. It seems that in whatever field you are in the legislature, be it veterinarian, insurance, or whatever, they would always go to you for information and support. But as an educator, everyone felt that they knew more about education than you did. Maybe it was because they had children and they'd been to school. Whatever it is, it's something that's been difficult through the years to get people to understand that just being a teacher isn't just walking in the classroom and saying, I know the information. You've got to be able to relate to young people. You've got to be able to explain to young people. And above all, you have to be honest with young people. Kids are just absolutely beautiful because they bring an honesty to the table that others do not. So education has been slipping. Each year we talk about how much money we have spent on education. Well, it's one thing to spend funds, but it's another thing to spend them equitably and in a way that's going to make education better. So that's something we have been struggling with for years. I hope to see some sunlight in the next legislature, and I'm with you. Now to voting rights.
Yes, yes.
I am running for Marion County Clerk because I believe strongly that the vote is sacred. Anything and everything that we do in this life, in some way or another, has to do with voting and who is in office. I often tell young people that you are not born until you have a birth certificate that says you're here on this earth. The same thing is true of death. You're not dead until you have somebody sign a death certificate that says that you are deceased. These are all political people or political agents. So there is nothing more sacred to me than the right to vote. And I take it personal because for so many years, my ancestors struggled, fought, and died to get the right to go and vote. And for me to see anyone in this day and age, be it primary or the election, say that I cannot vote because those people are no good, I said the only way you're ever going to change that is by your participation. So the one thing that I want to get over as Marion County Clerk is that if you come to vote in Marion County, your vote will be protected. We will do everything that we possibly can to make sure that voting is fair and accessible, and that everybody, be you 21 years old or over, will have the right to vote, and we will be respected for that.
Oh my goodness. You better say it. I can sit and listen to you all day long because it's so important. And Todd, I know they're working to write legislation in our state house to make it more difficult to vote. How will you approach it when you're in the state house?
I just want to say that the right to vote is sacred, and it is increasingly diminished. And you have to look at it's not only the visible things like making it inconvenient to vote, right? Whether it's not allowing people to pass out water, or or having limited polling locations or limited hours, or making vote by mail more litigious. Those are the obvious things, but it's also the less obvious kind of scaffolding that exists around democratic participation. And I've done some work on this. I started an organization called Veterans for Political Innovation to really push for ranked choice voting and open primaries, really getting rid of the primary kind of system as we understand it today. And we won't get into this because it's nerdy and technical, and Democratic experts have written a lot of books on this, but I would just say that I'm very concerned. And we have to, leaders either adopt a posture of they want more people participating in the process, or they adopt a posture of they want less people participating in the process. We have to be a party full of leaders pushing for more participation in the process. Because it's not popular. People will talk about voting security, and it's kind of a Republican talking point. But no one thinks it's okay to disenfranchise folks from voting. That shouldn't be a thing, right? And so, but we have to be really, really clear that we are the party that wants more participation in the process. And then we have to live that, right, ourselves, and really fight for processes for how we conduct ourselves, and then also for how we expand and push for policies and legislation and practices that expand participation for others. I really do believe that in addition to like fighting for voting rights and voting protection, like we've seen in Georgia and other places, that has to happen. I do think that we also have to have a conversation about voting innovation to create new incentive structures for more participation. New York City has overhauled their elections. They implemented ranked choice voting in this last mayoral election. They had a 30% increase in voter participation because people like seeing more options on the ballot.
They like actually having a choice.
They like having choices. And they like being able to rank their choices.
And they like feeling like they can participate. If you can get millions of people to vote for American Idol, you can get people to vote for the leader of the free world, or the state senator, or the coroner, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You just got to give people an option. Ooh, say it. You guys are speaking my language.
And so, the last thing I'd say on this is, we can change things. In New York City, changed things. They got a 30% increase in voter turnout. They got the first African-American mayor in 30 years. And they got a mayor that's, former police officer and maybe a moderate. But he represents, I think, what the city writ large wants. The challenge of this country, most districts are gerrymandered. And then in a gerrymandered district, it's either a Republican or Democratic seat. And so it's being decided in the primary. And that's the lowest sort of voter engagement event. And so, this systemic disenfranchisement is kind of happening. And I think as a party, we can really be leaders and grab hold of this and say, we want more people involved, and here's a way to do it. And I'd like to see us enter into sort of a golden age of political innovation to really think about these systems. And I think Indiana could be a place to do some things.
Absolutely. And we might as well start with Marion County. So Senator Breaux, and tell Jean I said, what's up? She was one of my best interviews when I first started. She came on. Talk about, once you're elected, everybody has some plans. And you guys know I never send questions in advance because I like our conversations to be more organic. And by the way, I failed to mention, if you guys like what these candidates are saying, because I do, and time is flying, I need to make sure I mention, click on their Act Blue link. We try to turn these into fundraisers for the candidates that are on the show. Every candidate that can make it, Indiana's Own can't donate to every candidate. But this is a way for you to support these candidates if you like what they are talking about. All right, Senator Breaux, you know what the clerk's office does, and I'm sure you have a mission. Talk about maybe one or two or three things that you want to work on when you get elected, because they keep passing stuff out of that state house, making counties spend more money on new machines, that machine. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming. Talk about the things that you want to work on.
Well, I guess the bottom line for me is that voting should be made easier and not more difficult. So the first thing that I am going to try to do is to make sure that all of the voting sites are accessible to people, whether they live in what we used to call the ghetto or whether they live in suburban
in the hood
Marion County. They require to be able to get to the polls and vote. Secondly, with all of the suppressive ideas that are coming through the nation to all of the state legislatures, we're going to have to be kept informed about what they are and make sure that we answer each and every one of them, just like the senator from Michigan did. When an idea first hits the table, answer it, respond to it. We cannot afford to wait and let these ideas germinate and get a foothold, so that we'll make sure that the state legislature does not pass any of this restrictive legislation. Number two. Secondly, we're going to have to educate all of our people about the importance of elections, how they affect every facet of their lives. If they want the holes in this potholes filled, they need to know who to go to, who does that. If they want this or that done, we need to do more education than we have been doing in the past about the real value of the vote, and that no one can take that vote for standard. It just happens. So we have to be more vigilant in what we're doing.
I like all of those. Todd, when you get elected into the state house, what are the three things that you want to work on?
I'm going to put democracy reform at the top of the list for me.
Wait, time out. Ooh, looks like we running over today. What? You are going to have to define what democracy reform is.
I mean, it's some of the things that Senator Breaux mentioned. You know, I want to advance a conversation about how do you have healthier systems of governance. And you know, I'm optimistic about, you know, I already shared my platform, but ranked choice voting and open primaries. We have open primaries, but we don't have this ranked choice voting solution.
We kind of have open primaries in 91 counties, but there's one county we don't have that technically. It has a slating process. I despise it. I said it publicly. Sorry.
That's right. And so I think that it's going to be hard to get good outcomes in a bad system. So I do want to look at the systems that we've got designed. And I think it starts with the elections. And I think that you can, you know, if Alaska, Maine, and Wisconsin and other places are indicators, we could change some things. And even with a Republican majority, I just don't think this is on the radar, but I want to push and test on that.
Okay.
The second thing I'm going to focus on is really about being a spokesperson for the region. You know, again, I think Northwest Indiana is poised for so much. We have to have, you know, in my view, you know, visionary leadership that can bring together business, political folks, industry, organized labor, and help collectively share and design and build the future for the region in a way that no one gets left behind.
Right.
I don't just want to sort of have the assets in place, but let industry decide what happens. Because again, my fear is not that we go backwards necessarily, but my fear is that we end up with a bunch of Amazon warehouses. And that's just, we can do so much more. We should do more. We be focused in the region.
So you mean you don't want to be Mississippi?
We can't. Someone said today, Indiana's Mississippi of the Midwest. And I hadn't heard that. And I said, that's, you know, and it doesn't track with what we have going on here. I mean, we have to fight for the natural environment. That's an economic development story as well. We have to fight for people. That is also an economic development story. So regional leadership is important to me. And I think we have a big opportunity. And then, you know, the third thing is just fight back. I mean, fight back against these culture wars. Stand up, be loud. Like more speeches like we're seeing out of Michigan in the state house when it just isn't right, and it's out of step with what folks are where I really believe most futures are. I don't think that they're excited about this foray into culture wars and telling teachers what to teach, what not to teach, what books to read, what books not to read. This is out of step, and I think we have to stand up and be the adults in the room and say, this isn't what people want. And there's a vacuum. So I think we have a chance to fill it, and it's going to take leaders like both of you and others in the state to really step forward. But I think we can begin to fight back. And you know, Obama won the state in 2008.
How quickly we forget.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you know, somehow we've got to make people understand what the true facts are. Mm-hmm. When we look at the record and see that we were 48th in education, we're down the road in health care, and all these issues, yet we go around the state of Indiana telling people how great we are and what great things we are doing. And yes, we are doing some beautiful things, but we're doing so many other things that need to be done. And I guess we also have to make people realize they need to vote on their behalf, not somebody else's. So many years as an educator, I would talk to teachers and they would agree. And what would they do? They go to the polls and vote the exact opposite. And I said, we had enough educators in each precinct that if we would just vote ourselves, we could make some changes. But we didn't do that. And so we have to treat them and make them know the value of the vote.
And you know what? You brought up a serious point. And I remember I was working with another young lady who was a teacher on another project. And, you know, I was doing my rant about, you know, we got to look out for the teachers. I mean, And she says, well, you know, they got to look out for themselves. Because the same people who are complaining about the policies that are being written are voting for the people who are writing those policies. So teachers, I mean, I'm going to need you to fight for yourself too. I'm out here fighting for you, but you got to fight for yourself. You raise a really, really good point. Now, the other thing that I want to touch on, because, you know, a couple of representatives who are working on those things, and that's our infrastructure, right? The lieutenant governor, when she was elected back in 2016, I believe it was, She made a priority that high-speed internet in rural counties and rural communities was tops on her list. She was going to get this done. She ain't done nothing. And they are just now moving forward with it because we got the Build Back Better funds. We continue to have people giving us a whole bunch of lip service about what they want to do for all of our communities and are not showing up. And our infrastructure is crumbling around us. Y'all talk about the importance of infrastructure, and that could be a whole lot of things, i.e., more voting sites. We know that Marion County has one early voting location?
Yeah, one early voting. We'll have some satellite voting starting this Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah,
in 9 townships.
For 600,000 voters. Think about that. Marion County has 600,000 voters. We have one early vote location. And I believe Hamilton County had 5. Y'all figure that out. Y'all figure that out.
Well, no, we have one voting site in each of the 9 townships beginning this Saturday.
Good. So everybody can get out and vote.
But up until this time, we've only had one in Marion County. And guess what they faced when they went to vote?
A long line.
Construction. Delaware Street was all torn up and they couldn't get in.
Yeah. I mean,
so we have to make it easier and not harder.
Absolutely. If they can move the Justice Center from downtown, they could have got some, because you got to pay to park. And then if
just move the site.
Move the site. Move it.
Nothing said it had to be only at the city county building. I mean, we are wise, we are bright, we know how to get things done, and if we want to get them done. So they could have moved the site to say 56th Street in Emerson, where I live. It'd been easier than where they are now.
Honey, and all those vacant buildings, we could have rented a building for a week or a month. It wouldn't have hurt nothing. But infrastructure. The pandemic, pulled the carpet up on a really bad foundation on a lot of things. You guys mentioned healthcare, but the infrastructure is the thing that allows people to do what they do. I'm very fortunate. I get to work from home, but I also had fiber installed to my house, right? Because I live in the city. She didn't deliver on what she said she was going to do until we got the money from Democrats. Talk about how we need to focus, and I don't care who goes first. Talk about how we need to focus on our infrastructure in some of the areas of need. You talked about Northwest Indiana. Y'all talking about getting a train. We can't get none of that nowhere else. But talk about it, y'all.
Yeah,
I don't know. Go ahead, Todd.
Oh, no, well, I was just gonna say I was listening to NPR and they're talking about how with the New Deal, part of what was so important in the New Deal and the Public Works Administration was just taking credit for the projects, making sure that every shovel in the ground had a sign nearby that said, "This is made possible by the New Deal." And I what's going to irritate me is when we start breaking ground on some of these projects and the same people that voted against these things are standing there holding, novelty scissors, taking credit for it. So
right,
that's going to happen.
Like Todd Young and stupid boy. I mean, sorry, number in the 3rd district, Jim Banks. Oh, that dude.
So there has to be
positive thing.
I'm positive on Democrats. I told you I will go in on a Republican.
Lead with love, Dana.
With love. With love.
No, but I think we have to stand up and make sure that there's proper recognition, and for people to understand these are federal dollars, that like this is what government does. There's this narrative that government's always the enemy. We have to understand that certain things only government can do, and infrastructure is, educating children is among those, infrastructure is among those. And so I want to see signs that attribute where these resources are coming from. I don't want to see people that vote against this stuff standing up at ribbon cuttings. And then, the quality of life is going to be driven by getting more infrastructure investments done in the state. We could be an early adopter for electric vehicle charging stations. We could be an early adopter for more clean energy here in Northwest Indiana. We could be, an early adopter and innovator for all kinds of new emerging technologies that haven't been totally framed yet, but Indiana could step into that void and create, policy frameworks that attract and incentivize, people to come here. So infrastructure is a big part of this. Our sacred obligation to the Great Lakes and the largest freshwater body in I believe the world is so important. We need to codify our participation in the Great Lakes Compact, not make that optional for governors. because I worry that if not this governor, the next governor might consider opting out of that.
Right.
And so we have the good fortune of sitting as, the crossroads of America, right? With rail density, with freshwater access, with highway transportation access. It's such a great thing with rail access, commuter rail access here in Northwest Indiana. We have a lot of good things happening. We have to continue to invest more in infrastructure, but then more importantly, we got to figure out what are the human activities happening around that. You can't just lay the track and assume all the right things will magically happen. You have to then stand up and lead and tell a story about an inclusive vision for the region. You have to get out and attract companies. You have to get out and tell a story that, hey, other parts of Indiana may not value women, but we do. And so it's not just about the infrastructure. Infrastructure matters, but it's also about how you lead and create the opportunity around that infrastructure as well.
I love it.
Well, I think it was Tip O'Neill who said that all politics is local. And so when I look at the infrastructure, I look at it like my neighbors look at it. I want to see that pothole filled. And what we see happening is that we fill them with less expensive materials that we can. But I have to begin looking at things in terms of how long is it going to last? What is the best way to do this and not waste our funds? When you talk about a rail system, we don't even have a bus system here yet in Indianapolis. And we're working, and nobody wants to see the streets torn up, which takes the preparation for the bus. But we have to have an eye to the future and realize that there are going to be some inconveniences along the way for us to get what needs to be done.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that because I remember having Miss Cordelia on the show one day, and she talked about, she was the only one I had heard up until that point talk about the types of materials. And if I'm not mistaken, it was the ballot administration that had completed those contracts for some of the asphalt. The other thing that drives me crazy is that, again, I mentioned Marion County is the economic hub of the entire state. And our biggest industries are located in Marion County, but the people who work and make those 6-7 figure salaries don't stay in Marion County. They move, they go out into Hendricks, Hancock, Johnson, and Hamilton counties. And then they come in and they complain about our roads, but they're taking all the tax dollars with them. I'm gonna be honest with you. I believe we should have a 465 96th Street County Line Road. We should have a Sunnyside Road toll. I believe it, because if you don't like our roads, then help contribute to it when you drive on it. And then you go up to...
Remind me of Glenn Howard, Dana. He preached that for years and years. Let's tax the people who ride on our highways. That way we get some and keep the roads good shape.
We want to have nice roundabouts like they got in Hamilton County too. You know what I'm saying? But we can't, because y'all keep now luckily we're getting to the point where they're going with smaller cars, but remember, they was driving Hummers and the biggest SUVs they can find on our roads in Indianapolis. Indiana's own Dana Black. I am talking to Ty Connor, who is running for state senate, and the venerable, the most wonderful, and just all around superstar Billie Breaux, who is running for Marion County clerk. And what I love is that, it doesn't matter how long you lived in our state. If you've been here since 2014 or back when Eisenhower, I don't know, whenever you moved here, there's a place for you in our space. Another thing I want to bring up, I love, Senator Breaux, that you still have that fight in you. You got the fight in you. And, you and Nancy Pelosi, come on now. We always want to be ageist and do some crazy things. I need to be like, our First Nation people where they revere our elders and they sit down and try to pick everything out of their brains. They don't put them in a home and tell them to go rest. No, they put them back to work again. I love it. Indiana's on Dana Black. Y'all, we have come to the end of the show. And I know it went by fast. You two are amazing. I really enjoyed having this conversation. Senator Breaux, I'm going to start with you. Tell the people where they can find you.
I have a website. It is Billie Breaux for Clerk. Please go to Billie Breaux for Clerk. And I have Act 2 fundraising fund, so you can contribute to that. And I guess what I really want to say, Dana, is thank you first for having me. This has been a very delightful conversation. And I just want to tell people out there, please vote. I don't care who you vote for. I want you to vote for me. That's the most important thing to me. But you vote for who you think is the best person. But please get out there and vote and tell the people that you realize the value of that vote.
Do you have any events coming up, any canvassing or fundraisers?
We will be at each of the satellite sites on this weekend. I will probably be at St. Luke's Church on 86th Street for much of that time. And that's about it.
Okay.
We have a phone bank that's going on right now, and they're doing a fantastic job. And let me just say that this response to my campaign, Dana, has been unbelievable. I've just been overjoyed by the people I've run into, the number of students who I've taught and teachers who have been beside me. And it's been a very good experience. And I hope that maybe even some senior citizens will understand that there is such a thing as an age, but you're only as old as you think you are. And we all have value, and we can all do what we want to do and what we feel is important. And let's try and do that.
I love it. And see, people don't even believe I'm 51 years old. I be trying to tell them, honey, age ain't nothing but a number. I make old look good. All right, Ty.
I like that commercial, age is a number, but I'm not giving you mine.
I don't mind giving mine because I be like, I want them to be jealous. I want to be like, you what? Ty, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, and Dana, just thank you for what you do to lead and keep the energy high and to keep hope moving forward in the state. I appreciate you, Senator Breaux. Appreciate you. Wishing you luck there in Marion County. I wasn't going to touch that toll road thing in '96. I was like, I'm not going near that. We'll stay focused in Northwest Indiana. But
I have a plan. Wait, I have a plan though. My plan is see everybody that when you live in Marion County, that your license plate, each county has a number, right? If you live in Marion County, your little number has a different kind of sensor on it, right? So when you come in and it reads your license plate, you don't get charged because you're already paying the taxes now. And then if you don't have an Indiana plate or you have an Indiana plate from somewhere else, and it's not a lot, it only has to be like 5 cents each time you cross. It don't have to be a lot, and then you just get a monthly bill. It's easy to do. I got a plan. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I like it. I have a plan where we give you 10 cents every time you cross into Porter County. And it's like a little incentive program.
To come visit.
Yeah, come visit it. Exactly. We'll put a little 74 cents, the price of tax on a gallon of gas. And so we'll take care of that.
I love it.
No, so again, thank you for the conversation. I can be reached at Todd Connor for Senate, TODDCONNOR for Senate.org. And my phone number's on there. You know, I'm available. Text, call me, email me. I'm having great conversations with folks. This weekend, we've got 2 meet and greets that we're hosting in the community. One I'm co-hosting with Angie Nelson Deitch, who's I think going to be the next mayor of Michigan City, at the Hope Community Building. We're doing a community breakfast on Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon we'll be at Emerson House, which is the small business that we own, hosting another couple hundred folks from the community. And we got events and canvassing throughout the weekend. So we'll be out and active until May 3rd when the polls close.
I love it. I love it. If you guys like what these candidates are talking about, find a way to support them. Go to their websites, go to their Act Blue pages, and help them out. If you like them, if you like your candidate, you have to support your candidate. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. Listen, I got to let you know, always to all my candidates out there, Black Pearl Studios, this is what I do. If you need help with your campaign, if you need a video shot, I can do that. If you need me to come and I have a PA system and host your event because you're doing something, I can do that. Now, those are services, and I do charge for those. But I promise you, you will get the blue discount. I promise you. But I'm here to help you with your campaign. I always try to figure out how I can help candidates. I tell everybody, whatever skill set you have, you bring it to the table and we can utilize it in our party. So all my candidates, hit me up. Just scan the QR code right there. I am easy to find. Scan that QR code. Send me a message. Email is always better than phone numbers, but hit me up and let me know how I can help your campaign. As long as you blue, I can get down with you. Real talk. I'm gonna turn that into a hip hop song. As long as you blue, I'm down with you. Hey, all right. And finally, y'all, we're coming to the end of the primary season. For all the candidates that I did not get on, please know that I try to do the best that I can. I am a one-woman shop over here. I am the producer, the content creator, the booking agent, the editor, the audio engineer, all of that stuff. I try to do it, keep the cost low. I don't have anyone else. So if I didn't get to you this time around, I only had so much time today, and I really tried to reach out to as many candidates I could. And if, next time, if you win your primary and I didn't get you on, trust, no, believe, I'm gonna be hitting you up right away, because now the fight will come where we got to go into the general election. So please know, I try to get as many candidates as I can. I do not endorse in the primary. I support all Democrats, so therefore I keep silent on who I'm voting for and supporting in the primary. But y'all got to get out and vote. Show up and show out. Show these people that we are done taking their mess. Because I'm sick of, listen, stop trying to tell me I don't exist. I am the loudest, gayest, blackest woman you ever gonna meet. I'm so black they name me black. So stop trying to marginalize me and pretend like I don't matter. And I'm gonna keep fighting and pushing and getting Democrats elected so that every community feels their value and feels their worth. All right, I got another show next week with 2 more candidates. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I will holler at y'all next time. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.